The Coach Qld podcast is brought to you by Think and Grow Business, the home of the Think and Grow Business Mastermind. If you're serious about growing your business, get serious and join a mastermind group today. Find out more at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au.
Hey there, it's Tony here and welcome to episode 122 of the Coach Qld podcast. Today I'm reviewing Queensland's victory in the State of Origin.
Guys, way to go. Keep it going. Good job, guys. All right, Paul, I see you. All right, Jonathan, finish on. Coach Qld. Great job, guys. Coach Qld, we love you.
How are we all doing? Yes, second episode in a week and we're reviewing the State of Origin game on Wednesday night. The game won by Queensland by 18 points to 14. And as you know, in the last episode 121, I shared some of my thoughts around the leadership approaches that were being taken by both of the teams. So I thought, why not? Let's just have a quick review of which strategy won, and then we can get back into looking at the transformative mind of a leader. So the game was ultimately won by Queensland by 18 points to 14. Now, both teams had players that were dominant at times during the course of the game. But it ultimately came down to the fact that Queensland just simply had more of them. So Dane Gagai, for example, scored a double for Queensland, plays his heart out for Queensland each and every time he's selected. And he was really supported by Cameron Munster, who had an awesome first half. Kalen Ponga was always dangerous. And our captain, Daly Cherry Evans, was just, I would use the word reliable. He steered the team around the park quite admirably in many ways. And so ably supported by a forward pack, especially hooker Benny Hunt, who were just excellent in defence. So New South Wales, on the other hand, Damien Cook was probably the most dangerous player on the field. Every time he touched the ball, there was something that was potentially on. A very smart player, really smart hooker. Tedesco was good, but the game, when you look at the reflections of the game and you look at some of the commentary that's happened from the game, they look at it, there was a bit of a confusing interchange strategy that Coach Brad Fittler put in place for New South Wales. For example, he dragged Cody Walker, the 5'8", one of the playmakers in the team, and in the second half. And that's rare in today's game that you hook one of your playmakers. And they left their best forward, David Clemmer, on the bench for the final quarter of the game, which, once again, they played him to the max up until then and just let him sit out. And at a time when New South Wales really needed some momentum and go forward, it would have been good to have Clemmer out there. So I'm not here to do an in-depth analysis. It's already been done by all the experts. But let's just look at the strategies that I spoke about in episode 121 and have a look at how they panned out. So I'll start with New South Wales, and their strategy was to bring an out-of-form halfback. For the halfback that won them the series last year. Hasn't been playing the best in 2019, and bring him into the New South Wales squad in the hope of him finding his mojo in the culture of the camp and being around a winning formula. Now, the difference being, as we talked about, was that he was being teamed up with Cody Walker this year, who was making his State of Origin debut, instead of the wily old James Maloney, who would be classed as a bit of a veteran, but as I mentioned, the most competitive guy in the NRL still. So Walker had outstanding form in the NRL competition, but Origin is just levels up, and he was, and we found out because he was benched in the second half. And when asked about it, Brad Fittler spoke about the fact that Cody couldn't find his way into the game. Now, he did come back later on, was instrumental in setting up a late try to the New South Wales Blues to give him some hope in the final minutes. But overall, Walker had a game that he would rather forget. So in my eyes, the strategy backfired. And interesting, many commentators, again, have now talked about the need for Cleary to have a guiding hand, because when the game was there and needed some game management from a New South Wales playmaker or halfback, Cleary didn't step up. So you've really got to question whether Cleary is the right choice in this particular role, because his clear role in the team is to steer the team around the park and to manage the team. But if he doesn't have that at this stage of his career, I'm not sure why he keeps getting picked, because ultimately, if he needs someone else to steer him around, to steer the team, I'm not sure if that's a worthy selection. So, as we know, everyone in their team has their role, and one of Cleary's role is to be a game manager. So I think that needs to be looked at. Now, I'm not saying he's not a great player. He certainly is a great player. But at this level, maybe he just needs some additional experience. So... But this is where New South Wales is in a bit of a bind now. You know, firstly, I mean, let's face facts. They lost by 4 points. That's not a comprehensive loss in anyone's language. And the team will certainly be much better for the run together. But the chorus is out there now already saying they've got to drop Cleary, they've got to drop Walker, and what have you. And in some respects, they're probably right. They probably should look to start again. But in both of their cases, the reality is that they're going to be better for the run. You would hope, you would believe. So in some respects, if they were to drop Cleary and Walker, they'd have to start again in those key roles. And ultimately what that would do is consign Walker very clearly to only ever playing one Origin game. I don't think at 29 he would get another shot. So... the youth behind Cleary, yes, certainly he's a much younger player. He would certainly get another chance. And he needs to get his game management skill together. But my gut feel is that they're going to stick with the side, and except in the case of injury, and they're going to look to build from their Game 1 experience. They are on a must-win, which changes the dynamics of the game for Game 2, and they have to win to keep the series alive. And if they do win and keep the series alive, the decider is on their home turf. The game will be played in Sydney. So it's a best of 3, and that would probably be the best outcome that the NRL would be looking at. So my gut feel is that they're not going to disrupt the team. They'll stick with Cleary and Walker. And it's better than that than to disrupt the team and have to start again with 2 new playmakers. And just while we're speaking of disruption, the National Anthem became a distraction for the New South Wales team. You know, Cody Walker was was asked after the All-Stars game at the beginning of the year about not singing the anthem. He honestly answered that he feels that it doesn't represent him or his family or his people, and, you know, an honest answer. And in answering a question from a journo prior to the game, prior to State of Origin, in a very similar way, it created a discussion point and a distraction for New South Wales. Now, what that distraction was worth, who knows? But if it was worth the 4 points, you've got to then question why that was allowed to be a distraction from the people leading and managing the team. Now, because what ultimately followed from that is that other Indigenous players were asked from both sides, and suddenly we had this boycott of the anthem. You know, it wasn't necessarily a boycott as in the vast in the true meaning of the word, but we did have Indigenous players on both sides stating that they were uncomfortable singing the National Anthem, and that's within their right and that's within their options. But also the New South Wales players were actually presented by some of the Indigenous players, the reasons why they wouldn't sing. And to me, that's an unnecessary distraction. When you bring it into camp, I think that's when, you know, fair enough, you can have your own viewpoints and your own opinions, but they brought it into camp, and I think that ultimately, from a team dynamic point of view, that's a distraction. So from a personal point of view, yeah, it's time to get a new anthem. Let's get this process started. I'm tired of hearing about as an issue or a concern every time it's raised. Let's just get this process started. But in saying that, an anthem's never going to truly represent everyone. So in a multicultural society like Australia, we can't realistically include everyone. We've had generations of migrants from all nations. And the question is, can we physically represent everyone in an anthem. I'm not sure if we can. So, but one thing that it must do, it must be more inclusive of our Indigenous traditional owners. And in another side note, I think the NRL did a nice job. They included league legend Jonathan Thurston in A Welcome to Country prior to the anthem. And in many eyes, the anthem is just a non-issue, as many players don't sing it anyway. Many people don't know the words. And the language in the anthem is language from another time. So seriously, when was the last time anyone ever said, geez, I'm glad we live in a land that's girt by sea? It just doesn't happen. So it is from another time. It is time to get our best songwriting nous together, and let's put something together that's absolutely inclusive of our Indigenous population, of our European settlement population, and let's really try and bring the country together. But at the end of the day, many people applauded their actions. Most people thought it was a side issue, a non-issue. Some thought it was offensive, and because of that, they shouldn't have been picked. Everyone's going to have their opinion. That's the world we live. We do have free speech, and it is allowed. Just because some people thought that not singing the national anthem was offensive doesn't make them a racist, although it may do, if that's the way that they're thinking. But the reality is that some people found it offensive that they weren't going to sing it. But most people, really, it was a non-issue, and as I said, many people actually applauded their actions. But the reality for New South Wales is that it was a distraction. And in a game that can be won or lost by, 1 or 2 points, and in this case 4 points, any unwelcome distraction that takes away from the team dynamic is something that shouldn't be there. So I'm just saying that. So if Cody gets another chance, maybe he would be better off applauding, and once again, my opinion, better off applauding the NRL for the inspiring Welcome to Country. I thought it was absolutely inspirational, and leave it at that. I know the journos are going to pester him for, are you going to sing? Are you going to sing? Do you think it's a distraction? And that's where New South Wales Blues management needs to step up and take him out of that equation. Let him talk about the Welcome to Country, because I think that that's a genuine mark of respect and a genuine mark of reconciliation. But let's not, for the sake of the New South Wales Blues, let's not get distracted by the anthem debate again. So let's look at the coach whisperer from the other side, Queensland. It's Queensland, and as you know, I'm a Queenslander. So, and it was interesting because the word belief started to pop up many ways in the lead up. So we started to move away from the focus of not speaking about the Blues and the other side. We started speaking about belief, and then some of the other commentators started talking about the certainty of language. Some of the other coaches that had worked with the Guru were asked their opinions, and as many people who work with coaches, outright, there was people are protective of that sort of stuff. It's a private relationship that you normally have with a coach. And of course, it's very rare for someone to go publicly on record and say, what an awesome, he just shook my mindset, or what have you. I know this from a personal aspect. One-on-one they may say that, but they're certainly very rarely going to go out there and talk about that, because in some people, being helped by someone to such a large extent can be seen as a bit of a weakness. So there was a lot of talk about certainty of language, the I will win, this is war, and, we expect to win, as opposed to how many of us speak. I hope we do our best. We're working towards that, which it becomes a little bit ambiguous. So belief and certainty in language was where the discussions started to have. But the biggest winner, and there's no doubt that this is certain, was the way Queensland was able to manipulate the journalists and the press corps leading into the game. The focus was clear from the journos that they were only interested in attempting to bait and goad players into saying New South Wales and Blues. However, what it did do was create an environment where the players had a little bit of fun with it by the appearance. So, I surmised that in my previous that maybe they're just having a little bit of fun. Maybe within the camp they're obviously still deadly serious, and they had that little bit of enjoyment with it. But what it did do was create an environment where the players were not overly scrutinised on potential matchups. So, and I thought that was, especially in hindsight, a brilliant move. In that case, it worked. And the player who clearly benefited was a guy called Will Chambers, who played all over the Boom New South Wales player that he was opposing, Latrell Mitchell. But it must be said, Mitchell had a particularly off game as well. But Chambers was all over him. So kudos to Kevy Walters, But I guess the question is what happens in Game 2. Now the journos shouldn't get sucked in again. It's one thing to have belief, share belief, load belief, borrow belief. It's another to use language of certainty, but the journos won't be doing their job if they don't ask the hard questions, and the hard questions about matchups and how people see, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear how is Game 2 going to be different from Game 1, because at the end of the game, both teams will improve. New South Wales probably need to improve a little bit more than what Queensland do, but Queensland had some off players as well, so that must be stated. So, funnily enough, the guru behind the belief, the coach whisperer, went out of his way to retweet a lot of tweets that mentioned the concept of coach whispering and the Queensland victory, even when people were taking the proverbial, so they were taking the piss. But he still retweeted it. And to me, the win was a credit to tenacity and commitment. And that aligns most definitely with the concept of language certainty, but the win came from Kevy and the boys. But I suppose in the harsh reality of commercialism is the value of the coach went up as well. So if he was charging $5,500 an hour prior to the game, he's probably charging a little bit more now. So coaches can and do help people. I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't believe that firmly in my heart. And I see it all the time with the clients. But as I mentioned, success is the client's. It's never mine. And I never ever want to be in a position where I'm claiming somebody else's success as mine as a means for commercial gain, because that's just not me. So from a strategy point of view, Queensland certainly are one, and the New South Wales strategy currently sits at zilch. So what will we see next game? Who knows? So the next podcast that I'll be doing will be focusing around the transformative mind of the leader, around what makes a great leader. So as always, a big thank you to the team at Think and Grow Business and their ongoing support. Find out about how they can improve the performance of people in business at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Don't forget, Seriously Simple Stuff is out. It's been out since 2016 and available where all good books are sold online, and of course you can pick up at my authors page at tonycurl.com.au. Don't ever forget, 20% of every book sold goes to support the wonderful work that Carter's Cause do in raising funds and awareness for kids and the parents of kids born with congenital heart disease. Our new sponsor, Totally Builderall, just about to upgrade there to Builderall 3.0, and everyone's so excited about that. But with that comes a price rise. So jump on to totallybuilderall.com. It's a fully integrated digital marketing platform, including web builders, page builders, landing pages, webinars, animated videos, mailing lists, CRMs. I mean, you name it, Builderall has got it. So check it out at totallybuilderall.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial. Absolutely free, not even a credit card needed. So, and an awesome platform, and it's one that we use ourselves here within the businesses that I run. So, as per always, you are standing, you are stronger, you are braver, you are wiser, and don't ever, ever forget the golden rule. Just don't be an arsehole. I'll see you next time.